Awesome. All right. Welcome to our Release 23 Tools Upgrade presentation. We are from iLearn ERP, which is a Denver-based training company. We do all things training, change, and communication around JD Edwards. We see quite a few familiar names out there. We've been around since 2010. Most of us have been in the JD Edwards ecosystem for, we like to say 20 plus now, just to be a little bit more kind to our ages. But we've been around this ecosystem for a long time. We're excited to be at InFocus again, and even more excited for in-person next year. Here's a little bit about us. I lead our services and universities division. You can see there at the bottom, we've got a couple of academies listed there, our E1 Academy, our End User Academy, and our DAS University. Those are online subscription-based general JD Edwards education universities. So you can bring in end users, super users, power users, analysts, etc. There's something kind of for everyone along those lines in the online subscription world there. And they do come with some live training as well. On the services side, that's where we do most of our custom and live training, presentations, workshops, all those kinds of things that come along with working with people on a day-to-day basis. We work with customers across the U.S., North America, and the globe in multiple languages to deploy learning solutions. So we've been lately taking a lot of people up to 9.2, whether that is a world to 9.2 big leap or something as simple as a small 9.2 upgrade where we are deploying and optimizing all of the new UDOs. So Todd's going to talk to us today about the Release 23 tools updates, which we're excited to dig into. As everybody knows, it just dropped, to use that new terminology. It just dropped at the end of last week, so it's very, very new. So we're excited to hear from you, Todd, and we will I will monitor the chat, both chats actually. You're supposed to put your chat into the Pathable one, but I'll keep an eye on both of them, and it's all yours, Todd.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Well, again, my name is Todd Nelson, and I've with iLearn since 2013. I started back at JD Edwards in 1998 and did some support over there for the distribution module. But since then, I've been a trainer and a developer of content for many of our academies that we have. And we, as Elizabeth just said, we talk a lot about the tools that are out there. This session particularly is going to be very much a high level version of some of the things that have been presented earlier in the week. If you just wanted to do a quick drive-by, hear what some of the tools applications and updates have been, that's this is your place for that. And we're going to just kind of walk through those individually here. Some of the technical aspects of that. We're not going to really go deep on these at all here. So many great sessions here. Some people from those other sessions I actually see on the call here today. So we're glad that you're here with us, and we're gonna kind of walk through each of these individual parts and pieces, and let's admit it that the Release 23 is just another step forward in how Oracle has really taken steps to move the needle forward in terms of the advancement of intelligent ERP and providing really robust functionality to all kinds of enterprises, people who are really looking to make their enterprise one systems really dynamic, agile, do all the things that we hope that our system can do. And we've heard from the various folks talking about the automation element of really making sure that our processes are accurate, they're efficient, they're effective, and how that's really optimizing our system in so many more ways. And as we move forward, again, when we move through the next 4 quarters of this year and the additional drops of updates that come, we're going to see more and more of these things that are going to help us to rethink, redesign, reimagine how we're going to do business moving into the coming years here. And I think that's a pretty exciting place to be for us if we really think about it. Again, these are slides that have already been shown here talking about the product strategy, how they've really worked towards simplifying this user experience so that it's when people are in there working in Enterprise One, it gives us the ability to do so many things, see multiple screens, also automate many business functions, giving us more and more enhanced feature functionality in all the various areas. Plus, we have this digital platform, the introduction of so many new features with the orchestrator, workflows, logic extensions. We'll walk through those here in a minute. And then again, on the back end, when we're really talking about making sure that our system is efficient and working the way that it happens, we've got this modern infrastructure, the elements of Sentinel administration, some predictive patching things, really moving towards a much more intelligent ERP system here. So some of the things we'll talk about today, they cover the digital transformation process that we've been discussing here, streamlining that process automation. Again, we'll talk about each of these areas, really leading us towards trying to move away from the notion of customizing when we might not need to. Much of the logic extension enhancements that we're seeing are really helping to move us into that reality, away from having to think about building behind the scenes development that occurs. I was just out in Alabama last week, and as we were walking through these very things, there was a lot of excitement with our customers as they were realizing that they weren't going to have to go ahead and try to retrofit quite so many of the things that they've been doing. They've moved away from the whole idea of taking the vanilla out of the box because it just didn't do what they needed it to do. But as we introduce this functionality in 9.2 and we move forward, more and more so, there are tools that are available that move us away from that eventuality. And then this last piece about improving the user experience, a really excellent enhancement with the file selector for orchestration. So we'll get into that as well here. Again, I talked just about this a moment ago. Let's kind of get into it. When we look back at release 22, we realized that there was a lot of things that were introduced. Thought I had to sneeze, but I didn't. You're lucky. Anyway, so we look back at release 22, and it was the introduction to the workflow process from a logic extension. A lot of the pieces within Orchestrator that just gave us so much functionality that we're like, open our eyes. And with that, there was a lot of questions about, well, I know that the orchestrator can do many of these things. Again, things such as launching from a lot inside of an application or from an Enterprise One page. But some of these earlier pieces, especially when we're talking about workflows and logic extensions, they've really added much more of sort of that was the part A, and release B is some of the part B of making some of these things even more fully functional as we look into that. Okay, so as we go in and we start to look forward now, we can, again, I saw this slide here early this week. These were just the introductions of all the various orchestrator enhancements that happened just this last year. They talked about these at Blueprint, and you know, it was kind of mind-blowing, all the things that we were able to do now to be able to go through and use these various things. There's a lot of recordings out there that you can review to get a better idea, go deeper on some of those functionality. I'm going to reference those as we look at these moving into release 23. So again, I'm just going to look at the four areas that were introduced here, very high level here. As we go through this, some of the pieces, if you're wanting to really dig deep with some of those, trying to get answers to some of the technical elements of those things, the session right after this is actually the Ask Me Anything session with the Oracle folks who are going to be out there really kind of the last effort here while you're at InFocus to find out the things you want to know. If something wasn't answered or if you didn't have it, you're going to have all the folks who've really spent the time in developing this functionality to go deep on some of those things. So hopefully this will whet your appetite, and you'll want to get a little bit more as we move forward from here. So, you know, even though I bring up the address book, which is one of the intuitive apps, I only bring it up because it's a real neat piece of functionality. It's not necessarily a tools enhancement, but it's worth looking at to just see how we're really looking at much more intuitive, helpful, functional types of things that we're going to be able to use as we move forward. So here we have that address book map here. This is inside of E1, the look of it, and it really does help managers and multiple departments easily locate address book records, and they can use multiple searches simultaneously and locate results on the map that you see here. So information like customers, suppliers, employees. I mean, you can have somebody who's out on site somewhere and they want to look up their customers when they're in town somewhere. They can put this in. I saw that this was integrated with the Cafe One layout with the actual address book. Really cool look and feel to it. Be able to just put your information in here. It'll pop up information about whoever you're looking for, where they're located, the key information that you like. You also have the ability inside of here. There's form and row exits that can take you to related information if you needed to look some things up here as well. So I think it's just a terrific enhancement here. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it as well. Also, there was the main one of the main pieces of the upgrades again has been in logic extensions. This element of use within JD Edwards is really giving us a lot more functionality, a lot more analytical ability to research and bring information to and from JD Edwards and do a lot of things. So starting with the data set processing for logic extensions, which we'll talk about, aggregation support, which is a big one, really trying to pull in lots more types of information to be able to use that and manipulate that in such a way for data analysis and manipulation. And you can use these logic extensions with really not having to have a lot of programming skills to do that. And then finally, the last piece of that, a big piece of, again, going back to the user experience, as we've seen, being able to launch a orchestration or a notification from inside of an application using the form extensions, you can do the same thing now in that same box when you're going through the wizard to just call a logic extension by itself. So let's get into that. So the first piece of that, again, is this data set processing for logic extensions. Now, this feature enhances the capabilities of logic extensions with the ability to accept arrays as inputs and return arrays as outputs for efficient iterative processing of multiple rows of data within the logic extension. So this can be thought of as arrays. So it gives the ability to feed a large amount of data into a logic extension and then iterate over it. So in release 22, you had one set of inputs and we could process on that one set of inputs. So again, in release 23, you have the ability to pass in an array and then loop it within the logic extension. So pretty cool, pretty cool. Also along with that, again, this aggregation support. Logic extensions really are a key component of the JD Edwards extensibility framework, and they enable non-technical business analysts as well as JD Edwards developers to use the familiar syntax of E1 event rules to create logic without the need for development client and without the need to build and deploy a package. So logic extensions provide a no-code way to manipulate numerical, date, and string data, as well as read and write data to E1 tables. So this feature further enhances the capabilities of logic extensions by providing the ability to aggregate data that is read from E1 tables. And in addition to that, to reading data from the tables, logic extensions also can now provide, oh, I didn't hit my little slide here. This is a cool piece. In addition to reading data from E1 tables, logic extensions can now provide functions such as sums, averages, counts, and a minimum of minimum and maximum values. So these aggregated results can then be used to subsequent operations within the logic extension or be passed as output to the next step in an orchestration. So for example, you want to provide a monthly bonus of maybe 5% to the salesperson with the highest sales of the month. So you could create a logic extension to query the E1 database and then return the employee ID for the maximum value of for the sales data. Then you query the database for the employee salary and multiply that times 1.05 to calculate the bonus. So it's a really great addition to what that actually can do for us. All right. Along with that, we have the ability to call directly from a form extension. I just mentioned this a moment ago. So, this enables you to launch a logic extension directly from a form extension without having to include it on an orchestration. This is a big piece. Previously had to be part of something. Now, if we just want to have that logic extension being called inside of a form, we can go ahead and call it directly from that form. So it really simplifies the use of logic extensions and eliminates that need to build an unnecessary orchestration. Okay. Along with that, one of our digital transformation enhancements is the ability to call an orchestration from a workflow. So this is the other end of what was, we've been able to do the opposite of that. And so a workflow has traditionally enabled a level of process automation by offering capabilities such as sending messages with action links and running reports and executing business functions. So this enhancement expands the power of workflows by adding the ability to invoke orchestrations and notifications. Again, this is the opposite end of what it was. So in this way, workflow processes now inherit all the automation power of orchestrations while still maintaining their ability to suspend processing to wait for human activities such as approvals. So in release 22, you could call a workflow from a logic extension and an orchestration. Now you can call the orchestration from inside the workflow. And the benefits of this is that it gives us a seamless integration between machine-oriented orchestrations and human-oriented workflow for an optimized automation. And also it enables orchestrations to be an automated actor in a workflow. So it enables these workflows to send subscription-based messages. All right. Also, we now have the ability to build complex queries to the E1 database. So this is a part of something we could do within an orchestration, and it provides built-in pre-configured read-only orchestration connector or connection to the E1 database. So using this connection, users with SQL programming skills can create orchestrations that perform more advanced queries to the E1 database, such as table joins and complex SQL queries. So the value of this is that it gives you the JDE security model and the data dictionary formatting that you expect to see in your apps, and it allows you to get that data out of the JDE system in the way that you're used to seeing it or using it. So this will support many of the table joins and complex nested queries and other functions that exposes this driver as a connector step in your orchestration. So you can use any one of the scripting languages that are set up for your orchestrations to create those steps and ultimately get access to the data. So this is really set up for a data analyst, and it's going to take some SQL programming expertise to utilize this. This is basically a pre-configured, predefined connector to the JD Edwards database. Very, very, very nice. Also, there is now access to the AIS APIs from the E1 page helper. So currently, there's this list of these APIs, or before release 23, these list of REST APIs that were out there available. This actually broadens that list of APIs that can be invoked through the page helper, and it includes all of the APIs, and it really expands the services you can use to build your custom JavaScript pages. So this is a list of all the APIs that are now available that have been added out there. So it's quite an extensive list. All right, so also we now have the ability to apply updates via the web manager. So to support this functionality, and this is again, it gives the update manager provides these capabilities to apply updates via the JD Edwards web client, and this feature increases flexibility for the system admin and trims the overall patch lifecycle time to production, all while providing these extreme patch insight for business analysts. So they've had to make some changes to the JD Edwards architecture to make these for these changes. So software updates are now provided treated as a platform neutral download file, or a PAR. Also, this software updates application is ported to run through the JD Edwards Enterprise 1 HTML server, and the logic is ported to run on the JD Edwards Enterprise 1 enterprise server. Also, a new common path code and environment are provided to support the deployment of any updated objects, as well as the centralized repository is provided for software updates within the E1 database. The centralized database repository is available for the locations of the patch metadata to ease application of the updates. So these architecture changes, they not only enable patch management on the E1 system in support of the digital technology, but they also increase the flexibility for the system admin to trim the overall patch lifecycle and time to production. They really provide a detailed patch insight for analysts. All right, I mentioned this here a moment ago. There's now this file selector for orchestrations to be launched from an E1 page. So last year there was an enhancement to put input files into orchestrations, and this really was a significant step. But in doing this, the inputs were rather structured. So you could input strings, numeric, dates, or even Boolean true false, but it was all very structured. So with release 22, you could input a file, let the orchestrator manage those files, and you could attach these files to messages that were going back outbound. Now you can also create record attachments or media objects, and you can automatically attach them there. And then you could also put them out into FTP sites, and you could also submit them to other REST APIs. With release 23, the question became, how can we launch these orchestrations and launch them from pages? So they took the enhancement from release 22 along with the additions in release 23. And so now we can invoke an orchestration from a page, and we get this window right here. And this window where we can designate the orchestration inputs. And then on the second tab, we can choose the file inputs. And this could be used to attach a file, or we could add a file such as a CSV file that maybe has multiple lines, and there could be things such as sales orders that need to be input into the system. And you could use an orchestration to take the records from inside that CSV, use them as inputs into the orchestration that will create the sales orders. So that's a great addition. Also, we have the Web OMW spec object support through the, I believe it's the P98220W. So you can now manage all your JD Edwards E1 object types from a single centralized Web OMW interface for concurrent projects. And these enhancements minimize the dependency on the Windows development client for the management of JD Edwards objects through their development lifecycle for administrators and developers. So in addition, projects and objects can be imported and exported through Web OMW interface directly into the environment metadata repositories. So, and then finally, the Web OMW has been enhanced to support direct and completed development of workflow and data structure objects, foregoing the necessity for a Windows development client for these objects. Okay. Also, we have the ability now to, with a centralized configuration for our E1 HTML servers. So this enhancement really simplifies the management of settings across the servers from the server manager, and it enables you to set up a default configuration that servers can inherit, and really does eliminate manual effort to populate common settings across multiple servers. Again, it's just going to save time that the system admin has to do, and it just eliminates the possibility of manual errors. So now those HTML settings will be stored and managed in a centralized database, and this database will be common to all the HTML servers. This centralized repository will store the configuration settings, and then it'll enable you to have a default group and instance level configurations. And that's going to allow you to seamlessly migrate seamlessly to your keep saying that upside down. Allow you to migrate seamlessly to and from your INI files. All right. There's also been added some enhanced security for the E1 messages to the email servers. And this enhancement ensures the secured email communications between your E1 and an SMTP server for message delivery. So with the support of the SMTP authentication parameters and the TLS version 1.2 security protocol, now all messages that are produced from E1 are enforced with additional security required by most SMTP servers today. And these additional layers of security minimize spamming of emails from the sender, and it eliminates the scope of security vulnerabilities. Also, we now have the ability, we have this provisioning of new enterprise servers with customized application packages. So custom provisioning on the new enterprise servers, it enables customers to use the current active packages for existing path codes when creating a new enterprise server instance through the server manager. So when customers create full packages for enterprise servers, they can now create a consumable server manager component. And this component is then uploaded directly into the server manager and used when creating a new enterprise server. And then by leveraging the current active package, newly spun up enterprise servers can immediately be deployed without performing any additional actions to get runtime libraries in sync with current object specifications. So this feature enables customers to leverage their own custom systems as templates for creating new elastic enterprise servers for logic and batch usage. All right. We also now have the ability to publish batch information via API. So this is an enhancement that provides a new API that retrieves that metadata for batch for any UBE that you run. So this metadata can be leveraged to consolidate the output of multiple batch processes and then create intuitive file names and simplify the validation process. So examples of this, of the information that can be retrieved by the API would include things such as the batch job number, the host name, and that could be virtual or real host name, the queue, the report name, and the version. So in turn, a related system function can pass this information to JD Edwards E1 internal applications. Also, I know all of you system admins who are out there who've been dying for this one has finally come to pass, the password reset self-service. You can reset your password now through the password self-service option and gain immediate access to your JDE system without involving the system administrator. And this is really going to save a lot of time for both you and the system administrators. So when we look at this on the E1 screen, we'll see it as a reset password that is down below where your user ID and password are now. When you click on that, you'll get the window to go ahead and put in your user ID. Once you click on that, it's going to give you this message down at the bottom that says a link has been set to your email system, whatever's designated. And on there, again, wherever you get your email, it's going to show it and it'll have a request to reset it. Very common. You've all seen this in 1,000 different applications. And then you can go ahead and sign in again. So nice new feature, long overdue as far as many of us are concerned, right? All right. There's also a little bit of security that's been added as well for TLS support for DB communication. So the communication between the JAS and the database server is now secured with TLS encryption. And the communication through ODBC connections from the deployment clients and deployment server to the database server on AS400 is also secured with the SSL enablement. So this provides enhanced security for database communication and prevents the risk of sensitive data leaks and SQL injection attacks. So it's just another level of security that adds to the system. Also have the enhanced authentication for data access through the DAD driver. And this enhancement provides some great functionality. This authentication through the data access driver enables customers to have seamless authentication through a token-based process as alternative to using the name and password. And this capability enables customers to make highly secure requests for data without exposing their user credentials. So this feature provides an enhanced security and enables customers to eliminate repetition of user credentials for every request made through the data access driver. And it enables customers to execute, we mentioned earlier about the complex queries that are now possible. This gives you the ability to create those through the orchestrator data connector as well. So it just helps you to be able to access many of those functions without having to duplicate all of your credentials being added again. Just very simplifies things quite a bit. Finally, on the platform, some of the enhancements that have been added there are things such as automatically identifying and managing the Oracle database connection state. So with an improved kernel recycling methodology that automatically identifies and manages Oracle database connection state, it also provides automatic failover of database connections, and you're going to experience improved business continuity and system availability on the Oracle databases, and this is going to result in increased uptime and better transaction continuity while eliminating the need for manual intervention. Also, there is the improved performance of workloads. This is really something that's going to be felt downstream, and it's an enhancement that enables you to configure the fetch size to obtain optimal performance for your Oracle database operations initiated by your workloads on high latency topologies. So this improves the productivity and overall end user experience by providing faster responses to business transactions. Finally, we have the platform certifications, which we seem to come with every update here. So we're going to see those additional certifications for the several of the Oracle items here, Microsoft, Google, and Chrome as well. So as that kind of is the last of the ones that have been rolled out that we saw that came as of last week. And again, have to say that these things just add on top of what we've already seen come through Release 22, and they just continue to hold our attention and our imagination for the things that are we need to try to accomplish, on our development calendar. They help us to get to where we need to go, solve some problems that we have currently. And so we really look forward to seeing more of these as they are rolled out over this next year. I know that here as we're wrapping up the end of InFocus, there'll be some comments about the roadmap of additional things that are coming as well. And we're looking forward to seeing more and more of those things as we come. So thank you for listening. Those are all the updates in Release 23. It's been a pleasure being part of InFocus this year. Elizabeth, I'll let you jump back in here as well. See if we have any wrap-up questions or thoughts.
Awesome. No, great job. There is not anything out on the Pathable or the chat. So I can't believe I have questions for you, but we're going to hold those a different day. We got some private compliments. A really, really good job. And a thank you for putting it in English as was out there. So good job for speaking in terms that those of us that are not super technical can understand. So great job on that front. It is a really big audience out there. So I know there's a question out there somewhere, and Doug is giving me the finger. Yes, sir.
You really could have phrased that a little differently. There is one question from our friend Shannon about the email for the password reset and where are those emails stored. So is that, well, I'll just let you get that done.
I'm not going to be able to.
Oh, Shannon, are you there?
Yes.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. How are y'all? Great session, by the way.
Thank you.
And by the way, we upgraded to Release 23 Monday.
Wow.
22 Monday.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, we're not that good. Don't even want to
say that is impressive.
No, but we're exactly one release behind. And so, but yeah, so the password reset. So we're just interested in where those email addresses are held that are the official registered emails.
Not going to be able to tell you. Do you know, Doug?
I'm going to make an assumption, but I know we have lots of smart folks on with us, including our Oracle friends. So before I take a slightly educated guess, does anyone else want to weigh in on where
Well,
that
I have
might
a
be?
guess, but I just want to make sure.
Stephen, I believe that it states it's in the who's who table, which is what I was, that was my guess.
But
So
is there a
Stephen, thank you.
specific record type? Or, I mean, I know email, but there's several emails. A lot of our employees have up to 3 or 4 email addresses. So I want to make sure that,
Oh, good point.
I mean, because we have client email, we have our official email for our company, personal emails, and I want to make sure that, and we are in the process of beginning an address book cleanup. So I want to be mindful of that, even though we're not taking that release yet. I want to make sure that we take this enhancement into consideration with our cleanup.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
we need to pull back that onion. And, when we do report writing, you do have the who's who and you have the phone number and that sort of thing. Electronic address has its own table. So my guess is it's in there, and you're probably going to need a type just like you need on phone, because on phone blank used to be business or whatever along those lines. So I'm assuming you're going to have to pick something along those lines in the mapping. And I just pulled it up. Electronic address is FO1151. So I'm assuming we're going to have to point there into the type on the address just like we do on phone, but we can pull that out for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Or like Todd said, it's a great question for the next session.
Uh-huh.
With all the Oracle powers that be.
We just want to be mindful of where we're going as we make enhancements to where we are.
Associated who's who table. Got it. Yep. Good point. Yeah. So it's going to be in that same area. All those tables are related. And nice thing is there's joins and views that connect all those two. I was looking at it from a report writing standpoint. So yeah, it's a good point and a good question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll be like, Todd, it'll be like when you reset your password, which I'm an expert at on multiple platforms of resetting my password, where it allows me the option to text, someday we'll get to text ourselves or pick our email, Shannon. Maybe that'll be the future state.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a great point there. And it's, Shannon made another thing, like, we know it's as things come out, there'll be more updates, right? So a lot of folks are getting themselves completely current on 22, and they're starting to take in 23 and align those new pieces to what their business objectives are right now and what those current initiatives are. And I think that Todd talked about that in one of our earlier sessions this week when we talked about continuous adoption with people. And that is making sure that, as you look at the different pieces, and the example there was, we've got an address book cleanup going on. Can that dovetail in with this new feature on password reset? And how do some of these different pieces come together to bring a better experience to that user, which is what it's all about and what we heard in our keynote. So I think that's a great point. And thank you for helping us answer that question out there. There's actually not additional ones out there, so that was a good one. Other thoughts, questions, things you plan to take into other sessions? Oh, we got some coming in over here. Yep, good presentation. Thank you to Todd. Unclear if release 23 is available. It is available. It was just at the end of last week. So
Last Thursday.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good question. So hopefully we can clear that up. If it gets more technical than that, we'll have to dig in. There's some different pieces about that, but it was published on Thursday of last week. Thanks, Todd. And I think that's all we got. What other questions do we have out there?
Not a question, but I'll put a reminder to go ahead and fill out that, what's it called?
Evaluation.
Pass. The session.
Evaluation.
Evaluation. Thank you, Todd. I'm a man of many words today.
Too many.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to pause the recording, and Todd and Doug and I will stay on for a bit.